Well, this viral video of the CEO embraced with one of his employees at a Coldplay concert made for great internet fodder, but there were real people and families involved. So how do we handle workplace relationships that might prove to be toxic for our personal lives? Here to help us is family therapist Colette Jane Fehr. So welcome to the show. Always great to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
And you've been saying, like, people have been asking you about this specific topic a lot over the last, couple of weeks. What do they want to know specifically from you? Or they ask
what I think of it,
yeah.
why this happened,
yeah.
what's going to happen next. And this is such a hot button issue because affairs create so much damage. So I think it's very triggering for people, even that this has happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And why do you think, this happens not on TV, not at a Coldplay concert, but it happens often where, these workplace relationships develop, these affairs. Why do you think that is?
So studies show that 50 to 60% of affairs begin at the workplace. And a lot of it is just proximity and shared experiences. In some cases, we spend more time with people at work than we do with our partners.
Yeah.
I also think the workplace creates unique opportunities for emotional connection to thrive. You're working on a project together, there's shared goals, there's high stress situations. So again, there's a lot that can lead to inside jokes and texting, and you have to have really good boundaries in place.
Yeah, that leads us to our next question.
Yes.
Is there any way to affair-proof a relationship?
I think you can reduce the chances significantly by, one, having great boundaries. And when it comes to the workplace, most people are not looking to have an affair, but they slip into it by getting into sort of a blurred boundary line, right? You're close to a coworker, but then you start to text too much, not just about work. You start to share more about your own personal life that really isn't appropriate in that context. So a good rule of thumb is if you wouldn't do it or say it in front of your spouse, don't do it at all.
That's a great rule of thumb. So, okay, so let's talk about other relationships that might happen at work.
Yeah.
Maybe that, toxic relationship, whether it be a coworker, a toxic boss, but you need this job, you have to stay there. How do you handle that?
So it's very difficult because you're really at the mercy of whatever personalities and issues you're thrust into where you work.
Right.
But I do think there are ways to confront certain issues with subtle boundaries and other things more directly and explicitly.
So what would be an example, you think, of maybe approaching the other person?
Yeah, so if somebody is constantly negative or gossiping, we all know that can contaminate our own mind space.
Yes.
That's one where you could set a subtle boundary where you might just say, I try to keep a positive mind frame. It really helps me focus on work. Changing the subject, removing yourself. If somebody doesn't get the hint, you might have to address it a little more directly. Now, when somebody is criticizing you in front of the team, whether it's your boss or a coworker. I've actually experienced this myself. It's a terrible thing. That's about public humiliation. It's not really constructive. That's got to be addressed directly. And that's where you might say to someone, of course, calmly and diplomatically, because this is the workplace, but you might say, I value your input, but I'd really appreciate if you could come to me in private. And in that example, I would say if that doesn't solve it, document it and bring it to HR.
Yeah, I was going to say, when do you bring it to that next step?
Yes.
But I would imagine that a lot of times just addressing it in that manner really kind of stops it, even with the toxic worker that's kind of gossipy or, you just kind of give a subtle hint. You'd be surprised how many people actually take it. Now, sometimes they don't, but usually
You're
they
right.
do.
You're absolutely right. I mean, people who bring drama and chaos, they tend to thrive in that in all areas of life. So they want you to engage. That's supply. If you're not going to participate, they're going to quickly move on to somebody else who will.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if we have time, but we wanted to ask about maybe like a boss who is, constantly like micromanaging what you do instead of letting you kind of do it on your own.
This is a great one. Yes, it's so common. So if you have a boss that's micromanaging, that's one to address directly. And again, say, I really value your input. And I notice I work better when I have a little bit more autonomy. Can we find a rhythm that works for both of us?
Yeah, that's great advice. Really appreciate such great advice. And you have a book coming out you wanted to mention.
Yes, The Cost of Quiet, How to Have the Hard Conversations That Lead to Secure, Lasting Love. It won't be out till February, but it's available on Amazon.com for pre-order.
That's amazing. Well, Well, thank you so much for coming on our show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And if you would like to get in touch with Colette, you can go to her website that you see right there on your screen.